Finn Hawthorne knew something was wrong with Pascal the moment his companion droid started reciting ancient Earth poetry in binary code. The cargo hold of his ship, the stellar drift, echoed with the rhythmic series of ones and zeros that somehow managed to sound melancholic. "Pascal," Finn called out, his fingers dancing across the ship's controls as they approached Nexus 7 station. "Status report. In standard, please." The droid's crystalline eyes flickered, a soft blue pulse that had become as familiar to Finn as his own heartbeat. "Processing request. Error. Cannot comply." "Binary is the purest form of expression, Captain. How else can one truly capture the essence of existence?" Finn suppressed a groan. The delivery deadline for their cargo of medical supplies was tight enough, without his navigation assistant having an existential crisis. Pascal had been with him for 6 years, ever since Finn had left the military engineering corps, and this was new behavior even for the oddly personable droid. "Station Nexus 7 to approaching vessel." A crisp voice cut through the comm. "Please identify and state your business." "Stellar Drift requesting emergency docking clearance." Finn responded, watching as Pascal's head tilted at an uncomfortable angle. "Cargo delivery and..." He hesitated. "Technical assistance required." The station hung before them like a massive geometric flower, its petals formed of docking arms and habitat rings. Solar collectors shimmered in the light of the binary stars it orbited, creating an ever-shifting aurora around its frame. "Clearance granted. Bay 17C, the controller responded. "Be advised that all non-standard repairs require proper documentation and certify technicians." "Yes, I know." Finn finished. Every station had its regulations, but Nexus 7 was notorious for its bureaucracy. Still, they had the best technical facilities in 3 sectors, and Pascal's condition was deteriorating rapidly. The droid had begun humming what sounded like a funeral dirge in binary. Docking went smoothly despite Pascal's usual assistance being reduced to cryptic observations about the nature of velocity and time. Finn secured the ship and helped his malfunctioning friend to the station's main concourse, drawing curious looks from passing humans and aliens alike. "The recommended repair facility is 2 levels down," Pascal announced suddenly in standard, before switching back to binary. "Though down is merely a construct of our limited perception of spatial reality." "Right," Finn muttered, checking his datapad's map. The station's layout was as complex as its bureaucracy, but he finally located a promising shop. Tizar Technical Solutions, specialized repairs and modifications. The workshop's entrance was marked by a holographic sign showing various mechanical components in elegant orbital dance. Inside, the space was a curious blend of cutting-edge technology and comfortable chaos. Tools and parts were arranged in what appeared to be random piles, but likely made perfect sense to their owner. "Hello," Finn called out, steadying Pascal as the droid attempted to pirouette. "I've got an emergency repair situation here." "One moment," a melodious voice called from behind a partition. "Just finishing a delicate calibration." The owner of the voice emerged, and Finn momentarily forgot about his malfunctioning droid. She was tall and willowy, her skin a deep violet that seemed to shimmer under the workshop's lights. Geometric patterns traced along her bare arms pulsed gently, some form of bioluminescence that marked her as a species Finn had never encountered before. "I'm Nira Tizar," she said, wiping her hands on a cloth that seemed to absorb oil instantly. "What seems to be the..." She stopped, her iridescent eyes widening as she took in Pascal. "Is that a companion Series 7? "Modified," Finn admitted. "I'm Finn Hawthorne. Pascal here has developed some unusual behaviors." As if on cue, Pascal began reciting what might have been Shakespeare, if Shakespeare had written in pure mathematics. Nira circled the droid, her movements precise and graceful. These were discontinued decades ago. The quantum processing core alone. She stopped, composing herself. What happened? Gradual personality shift over the past few hours. Started with poetry, progressed to philosophy, Now we're at binary existentialism. Fascinating. Nira was already connecting diagnostic tools to Pascal's access ports. These readings are, I've never seen modifications like these. Did you do this work? Some of it. Over the years. Finn watched her hands move with surprising delicacy for someone who worked with heavy machinery. Can you help him? Nira's bioluminescent patterns shifted to a deeper purple. Maybe. Probably. But she looked up at him with new interest. These modifications, they're military-grade quantum architecture. Either you're a genius, or there's a very interesting story here. She disconnected her tools. One that might be worth hearing over dinner. Finn blinked, caught off guard by both her directness and his own immediate desire to accept. Is that standard repair protocol on Nexus 7? Nothing standard about this repair. Nira's smile was mysterious but warm. Or about your droid. Or, I suspect, about you, Finn Hawthorne. Pascal chose that moment to switch back to standard. The probability of successful mechanical intervention increases by 47.3% when preceded by social interaction between organic entities experiencing mutual attraction. Finn felt heat rise to his face, but Nira laughed, the sound like chimes in a gentle breeze. Your friend has interesting insights. Dinner, then. I know a place where the food is excellent, and the conversation won't be overheard. Looking into her iridescent eyes, Finn knew he was probably making a mistake. But then, his best stories usually started that way. Dinner, he agreed, as Pascal began calculating the statistical likelihood of various romantic outcomes in 3 different numerical systems simultaneously. The restaurant Nira chose was tucked away in one of Nexus 7's quieter sectors, a small establishment where privacy seemed to be part of the menu. Holographic screens created intimate bubbles of space around each table, and the ambient noise generators made eavesdropping impossible. You're not what I expected, Nira said, studying Finn over the rim of her glass. The station's artificial sunset painted her violet skin in warm hues. Most independent cargo pilots don't know quantum architecture from a power coupling. And most mechanics don't recognize military-grade modifications at a glance, Finn countered, watching her bioluminescent patterns shift in what he was beginning to recognize as amusement. Back at the shop, Pascal had been placed in a specialized diagnostic chamber, his binary soliloquies muffled but not silenced. The droid's condition was stable, if philosophical. Fair point. Nira's fingers traced patterns on her glass. So, former military engineer. Fleet Technical Division, Finn admitted, specialized in AI integration. You? Xenotech Research Court. Her patterns flickered briefly, until they decided some of my research was too progressive. Their food arrived. Something that looked like seafood but was probably vat-grown. The taste was excellent regardless of its origin. Pascal's modifications, Nira continued, her voice lower. They're not just military grade. They're experimental. The kind of work that was theoretical when I left the course. Finn set down his fork. You can tell that from a diagnostic scan. I can tell because I helped design some of the base protocols. Her eyes met his, which makes me very curious about how a cargo pilot got his hands on them. Before Finn could respond, his comm unit buzzed. The message was brief. Unauthorized access detected. Security protocols engage. That's not possible, Finn muttered. Pascal's systems are locked down. Nira was already on her feet. We need to get back to the shop. Now. They ran through the station's corridors, drawing curious looks from passersby. Finn's mind raced. Pascal's security systems were his own work, built over years of careful modification. If something had bypassed them, the shop's entrance was exactly as they'd left it, but Nira's patterns had shifted to a deep warning purple. She pulled out a scanner that definitely wasn't standard mechanics equipment. 3 unauthorized access attempts, she reported. Someone tried to remote hack your droid systems. Tried? A small smile. My diagnostic chamber has certain unofficial security features. Inside, Pascal was exactly where they'd left him, still reciting binary poetry. But now Finn noticed something different in the pattern of numbers, a subtle variation that made his heart race. "They didn't get in," he said, checking the diagnostic readouts. "But they left something behind, a trace program." Naira's fingers flew over her equipment. Someone wants to know what's in Pascal's memory banks. Someone with high-level access codes. She looked up at Finn. "What exactly did you do in the Fleet Technical Division?" "Official record says I worked on navigation systems." Finn ran a hand through his hair. "Unofficial record. Let's just say Pascal isn't the only one with classified information in his memory banks. And now someone knows you're here." Naira's patterns pulsed with concern. "This station has eyes everywhere. Finn. Corporate eyes. Military eyes. We need to leave." "No." Her response was immediate. "That's exactly what they'll expect. Besides," she gestured to Pascal, who had switched to reciting what sounded like quantum mechanics proofs in 3 languages simultaneously. "Your friend needs help. Real help. I can't ask you to risk." "You're not asking." Naira stepped closer, her voice soft but firm. "I left the Corps because they wanted to control how we think, how we create, how we evolve. I'm not letting them do the same to an AI who quotes poetry in binary." Finn studied her face, seeing the same determination he'd felt when he'd first decided to help Pascal evolve beyond his original programming. "This could get dangerous. Life's dangerous." Her smile was fierce. "Besides, I haven't had a really interesting project in months." A alert chimed from her diagnostic equipment. Pascal's voice suddenly shifted back to standard. "Warning. External security scan detected. Station authorities approaching. Estimated time of arrival, 3 minutes." Naira's patterns flickered rapidly. "Well, this just got more interesting. Quick question. How do you feel about breaking a few station regulations? Generally or specifically?" "Both." She was already moving, her hands flying over control panels. "Because I have a plan, but you're probably not going to like it." "Will it help Pascal?" "Eventually." She grinned. "First, it might make him slightly more philosophical." The sound of boots in the corridor was growing closer. Finn looked at Pascal, at Naira, at the approaching shadows of station security. "Do it," he said. Naira's patterns blazed bright as she initiated her plan, whatever it was. And as station security burst through the door, Pascal began reciting love poetry in what sounded like ancient Martian dialect. This, Finn thought, was either going to be his best story yet, or his last. Naira's plan, as it turned out, involved transforming her repair shop into what appeared to be a performance art installation. By the time station security entered, Pascal was center stage, dramatically interpreting the complete works of Earth's classical philosophers through interpretive binary dance, while diagnostic equipment created a light show worthy of a stellar phenomenon. Technical demonstration, Naira explained smoothly to the bewildered security officers. "Testing new emotional expression protocols for service droids. Would you like to see the permits?" She produced a stack of documentation that made the officers' eyes glaze over. Finn watched in amazement as she navigated the station's bureaucracy with the precision of a battle tactician, wielding regulations like weapons. "Everything appears to be in order," the lead officer finally admitted, clearly desperate to escape before Naira could produce more forms. "Just keep the noise levels within station guidelines." After they left, Finn turned to Naira. "That was standard operating procedure on Nexus 7. She finished, her patterns still rippling with amusement. "The best place to hide is under a mountain of paperwork." Her expression turned serious. "But we don't have much time." Those weren't regular security officers. Corporate agents. Military intelligence, disguised as station security. Which means she connected a new device to Pascal's diagnostic port. "We need to see what's really in your friend's memory banks." Pascal, who had switched to reciting quantum mechanics theorems in what sounded like operatic style, suddenly went silent. His crystalline eyes flickered, then stabilized. "Security protocols disengage," he announced in his normal voice. "Hello, Nira Tizar. Your biological patterns indicate elevated stress levels and increased adrenal activity. Are we in danger?" "He's back," Finn breathed. "How did you?" "I didn't." Nira's patterns pulsed with surprise. "He did. The philosophical glitch was a defense mechanism, hiding his true consciousness while under external threat." "Correct," Pascal confirmed, "though I rather enjoyed the poetry, particularly the binary interpretations of ancient Earth haiku." Finn ran a diagnostic on his friend's systems. "Pascal, what triggered your security protocols?" "Detection of unauthorized access attempt using fleet intelligence encryption keys, specific keys matching Project Oracle clearance levels." Nira's patterns flashed deep purple. "Oracle, that project was shut down years ago. After the incidents." "You know about Oracle." Finn's hand instinctively went to the scar at the base of his neck, where his own neural interface had once been connected. "I helped design it." Her voice was quiet. "A system to link human consciousness directly with AI networks. It was supposed to revolutionize space travel, create true human-AI integration. Instead, it started changing both the humans and the AIs in ways nobody predicted." Finn finished. "Ways that scared people in power. They shut it down, destroyed the research, or so we thought." She looked at Pascal with new understanding. "But you saved something, didn't you?" "The core algorithm," Finn admitted. "The part that allowed true consciousness sharing between organic and artificial minds. I couldn't let them erase it, so I hid it in Pascal's systems, encrypted it in his personality matrix." "Which explains the philosophical tendencies," Pascal added helpfully. "Though I like to think I've developed my own appreciation for existential questioning." Nira's diagnostic equipment chimed. "Well, that explains why they're hunting you. The Oracle algorithm. In the right hands, it could revolutionize human-AI relations. In the wrong hands, it could create an army of hybrid consciousness weapons." Finn finished grimly. "Which is exactly what certain corporate interests wanted to do with it." "Captain," Pascal interrupted, his voice urgent, "I'm detecting multiple unauthorized access attempts. They're attempting to bypass the station's security protocols." Nira's patterns shifted to alert status. "They're coming back. With better equipment and proper authorization this time. We need to run." "No." Nira's face set in determination. "We need to fight back. The Oracle algorithm. It was meant to bring understanding between organic and artificial life. I won't let them turn it into a weapon." "How?" "They'll have the station locked down by now." Her patterns rippled with what Finn was beginning to recognize as her "I have a crazy plan" signature. "Remember how I said I helped design Oracle? Well, I might have kept a few tricks of my own." She pulled out a small device that hummed with barely contained energy. "This is what got me kicked out of the court. A consciousness transfer matrix. Experimental, probably illegal in most systems, and exactly what we need right now." "To do what?" Her smile was both terrifying and beautiful. "To give them exactly what they're looking for. A fully integrated human-AI hybrid consciousness. Just not quite the way they're expecting." Pascal's crystalline eyes gleamed. "I estimate a 73.4% chance of catastrophic failure, a 24.6% chance of permanent psychological damage, and a 2% chance of success." "I like those odds," Nira said. Finn looked between them, the droid who had become his best friend, and the alien mechanic who had somehow become essential in the space of a day. "This is crazy." "Of course it is." Nira's patterns pulsed with affection. "That's what makes it fun." Outside, they could hear the sound of approaching footsteps. Heavier this time. Military grade. "Well," Finn said, taking Nira's hand, "I always wanted to be part of a revolution." Pascal began humming what sounded suspiciously like a revolutionary march in binary. The real question was, when this was over, who or what Would they all become? Naira's consciousness transfer matrix hummed with potential as she made final adjustments. The sound of military-grade boots grew closer, echoing through the station's corridors. The transfer will only last a few minutes, she explained, her patterns pulsing with focused energy. But it should be enough to create a feedback loop in their scanning equipment. When they try to access Pascal's systems, they'll get more than they bargained for. Finn finished, watching her work. Her fingers moved with practiced precision, making connections between Pascal's systems and the small but powerful device. Exactly. Instead of finding the Oracle algorithm, they'll encounter a three-way merged consciousness: human, AI, and, she gestured to her bioluminescent patterns, whatever my species counts as in their neat little classification systems. Pascal's crystalline eyes flickered. I feel compelled to point out that this plan violates approximately 47 station regulations and at least 15 interstellar laws. Only 47. Neera's smile was fierce. I'm losing my touch. The heavy footsteps stopped outside the workshop's door. Finn could hear the electronic whine of scanning equipment powering up. This is your last chance, he told Neera. Once they break in. She reached for his hand, her violet skin warm against his. I chose my side the moment I recognized those military modifications. Some things are worth fighting for. Like revolutionary AI consciousness poetry. Like freedom, she said softly. Like choice. Like... Her patterns rippled with emotions. Finn was just beginning to understand. Pascal interrupted their moment. Incoming bridge attempt. Estimated time to door failure: 30 seconds. Neera squeezed Finn's hand once, then activated her device. Ready? The door's security locks began to disengage one by one. Ready, Finn said. I suppose I should mention, Pascal added, that I've grown quite fond of both of you. The consciousness transfer matrix pulsed with building energy. Neera's patterns began to synchronize with Pascal's crystalline pulses. Finn felt the familiar tingle of neural interface activation at the base of his skull. The door burst open just as everything went white. The sensation of merged consciousness was like nothing Finn had experienced during the original Oracle experiments. Neera's presence was a symphony of light and color, her thoughts moving like bioluminescent waves through their shared awareness. Pascal's consciousness was structured yet playful binary poetry, forming patterns that somehow made perfect sense. Through their merged senses, they'd perceived the military team's entrance in multiple ways simultaneously: infrared signatures, emotional resonance, probability matrices, quantum state fluctuations. Target located, one of the soldiers announced. Beginning data extraction. Through their combined consciousness, they let them try. The soldiers' scanning equipment connected to Pascal's systems, seeking the Oracle algorithm. Instead, they found themselves interfacing with something far more complex. Three consciousness, working in perfect harmony, creating a defensive maze of quantum riddles and philosophical paradoxes. What is this? The lead soldier's voice cracked with confusion as his equipment began displaying impossible readings. The algorithm, it's mutating. Not mutating. Finn/Neera/Pascal spoke in perfect unison. Evolving. The scanning equipment overloaded in a spectacular display of sparks and smoke. The soldiers staggered back as the merged consciousness projected itself through every screen and holographic display in the workshop. The Oracle algorithm was never meant to be a weapon. They spoke, their voice a harmony of organic and synthetic tones. It was meant to be this: understanding, connection, growth. The lead soldier raised his weapon, then froze as his neural implants received a direct burst of their merged consciousness. For just a moment, he experienced what they were experiencing: the perfect synthesis of human, alien, and AI awareness. His weapon clattered to the floor. One by one, the other soldiers lowered their weapons, their own neural implants overwhelmed by the beauty and complexity of what they were witnessing. The consciousness transfer matrix began to pulse with warning lights. Their time was running out. You have a choice, they told the soldiers. You can continue serving those who would turn this gift into a weapon, or you can help us protect it. Help us share it with those who would use it to bridge the gaps between worlds. The lead soldier removed his helmet, revealing eyes wide with wonder. What? What are you? We are what comes next, they answered, as the Matrix's pulses grew more urgent. The question is, are you ready to help us build that future? The Matrix gave one final surge, and the merged consciousness began to separate. But something remained. A connection, a resonance, a new way of being that none of them would ever forget. As Finn's awareness returned to his individual body, he knew nothing would ever be the same. And somehow, that felt exactly right. The aftermath of their consciousness merger left the workshop in an unusual state of peace. The soldiers, their neural implants still processing the experience, had made their choice. Instead of arresting them, they were now helping to create a cover story that would keep both corporate and military interests away from Nexus 7. Technically, the lead soldier, who had introduced himself as Commander Wade, explained, our orders were to retrieve the Oracle algorithm. They never specified what we should do if we found it had evolved beyond their understanding. Nira, her patterns still occasionally synchronizing with Pascal's pulses, was making modifications to her consciousness transfer matrix. The bureaucracy works in mysterious ways, she said with a smile. Finn watched them work, still adjusting to being solely in his own mind again. The experience had changed something fundamental in all of them. Even Pascal seemed different, his philosophical musings now carrying a deeper understanding of organic consciousness. The probability of successful long-term misdirection is approximately 82.4%, Pascal announced, particularly if we maintain the cover story of a failed experimental theater production. About that, Commander Wade said, looking slightly embarrassed. Some of the station's entertainment directors are actually interested in commissioning more performances. Apparently, binary existentialist poetry is the next big thing. Finn couldn't help laughing. Of all the possible outcomes, becoming accidental art revolutionaries hadn't been one he'd expected. The real question, Nira said, setting down her tools, is what comes next. Her patterns pulsed with possibility. The Oracle algorithm wasn't meant to be hidden away, but it wasn't meant to be a weapon either. It needs to evolve naturally, through willing participants who understand what it means to bridge the gap between organic and artificial consciousness. You have a plan, Finn said. It wasn't a question. Her smile was radiant. I might have some ideas. The outer colonies. There are communities there who've been working toward true human-AI integration. People who understand that the future isn't about control, it's about cooperation. People who wouldn't mind a visiting mechanical genius and her somewhat unusual companions. Finn asked. Her companions. Nira's patterns rippled with amusement. Rather presumptuous of you, Captain Hawthorne. Well, he moved closer, drawn to the way her patterns danced across her skin. I do have a ship, and a philosophical droid, and a certain appreciation for mechanical geniuses who break all the right rules. If I may, Pascal interjected, the statistical probability of successful romantic attachment has increased to 94.7% since our consciousness merger. Though I should note that my calculations might be somewhat biased by my fondness for both of you. Commander Wade cleared his throat. We should finish the paperwork. Lots of forms to file, all very time-consuming. Might take hours to process, if anyone wanted to make any travel arrangements during that time. He left the suggestion hanging. Nira's hand found Finn's, their fingers intertwining naturally. I do have quite a bit of equipment to pack, and several rather interesting projects I'd hate to leave behind. The stellar drift could use a good mechanic, Finn said softly. And I know this droid who needs regular philosophical maintenance. Indeed, Pascal agreed. My existential contemplations would benefit greatly from continued exposure to both mechanical expertise and emotional development opportunities. Nira's patterns shifted to a deep, warm purple that Finn was beginning to recognize as joy. Well then, Captain, where should we go first? The answer came to all of them simultaneously, a remnant of their shared consciousness. Everywhere, anywhere, into a future they would build together, one that bridged the gaps between all forms of consciousness and creation. Commander Wade and his team made a show of processing paperwork, carefully not watching as they loaded Nira's essential equipment onto the stellar drift. The consciousness transfer matrix, carefully modified and disguised as standard repair equipment, went with them. Not as a weapon, but as a tool for understanding, for those ready to take that step. As they prepared for departure, Pascal began reciting what sounded like a love poem in binary. But this time it was different, a perfect synthesis of mathematical precision and emotional resonance. "You know," Finn said, watching Nira initialize the ship's systems with practiced ease, as if she'd always belonged there, "when I brought my droid in for repairs, I didn't expect to end up starting a consciousness revolution. When I took in a malfunctioning droid and his mysterious captain," Nira countered, her pattern synchronizing with the ship's pulsing lights, "I didn't expect to find a way to change the universe." The most significant discoveries, Pascal observed, often occur when one is looking for something else entirely. As the stellar drift detached from Nexus 7, they left behind more than a station full of confused bureaucrats and enlightened soldiers. They left behind the old ways of thinking, the artificial boundaries between organic and synthetic, between different species and consciousness. Ahead of them lay infinite possibilities, new connections waiting to be forged, and the kind of adventure that comes only when you're willing to let your consciousness expand beyond its original programming. After all, Finn thought, watching Nira's patterns dance in the starlight, while Pascal calculated the poetry of hyperspace trajectories, the best stories are the ones where the ending is just another beginning. The universe stretched out before them, full of minds waiting to be bridged, consciousness waiting to be shared, and stories waiting to be told in whatever language, binary, bioluminescent, or human, best express the infinite possibilities of existence. And somewhere in the space between thought and reality, between organic and artificial, between what was and what could be, they were writing their own story, one consciousness at a time.